From between 6 and 7 Mile, this is your Daily Detroit, recorded on February 11th, 2019. I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Sven Gustafson. Welcome back from the weekend, everybody. Let's get right into it right after this.
Daily Detroit is brought to you in part by Bamboo Detroit. With an inclusive community, flexible modern offices, classes, and networking events, Bamboo Detroit helps entrepreneurs and innovative companies launch, land, or expand in Detroit. Become one of more than 400 members today at bamboodetroit.com.
The city of Detroit has an improved credit rating. The ratings agency Standard & Poor's last week raised the city's credit rating from B+ to BB-, which is fourth from the top. It means the city will face lower costs to borrow money for projects or investments. It's the first upgrade from Standard & Poor's since December 2017, and it comes on the heels of similar upgrades from Moody's Investor Services in 2017 and 2018. Standard & Poor's cited the city's strong financial reserves, strong liquidity, and ability to absorb increasing costs for providing pensions and debt service payments in the coming years. It also cited rising property values across the city. The report says the city must continue to invest in public infrastructure and economic development initiatives to stabilize its population and tax base. Mayor Mike Duggan has said his performance should be judged based on whether the city can turn around its population loss and start growing. In a statement, Duggan said the improved rating is a reflection that strategies to improve the quality of life in Detroit are working. S&P also lowered its ratings on two Detroit programs that use a state program to issue bonds. One is for bonds issued on behalf of a first lien on the city's municipal income taxes and are due to a change in S&P's rating methodology. The other was for bonds issued from the Detroit Public Lighting Authority.
The abandoned Summit Place Mall in Waterford has a date with the Wrecking Ball this April. The developer, Ariel Enterprises, said that 1.5 million square feet of buildings will be demolished on the 74-acre property. The demolition will cost about $4.5 million. In its place near Elizabeth Lake and Telegraph Roads will go a new Oakland County Business Center. Yes, that does sound like a generic name, but in fact, it is the proper name. Ariel says the new center will have about 1 million square feet of usable space. Their website says, also generically, it will be built to suit for, quote, research and development, corporate offices, warehouse, or flex-type space, unquote. Roadways will be reconstructed to support the new development soon, and officials recently approved a 10-year freeze on property taxes for the site. It's projected that 2,000 jobs will be located at the new development once it's all done. And a little history. Summit Place Mall opened as the Pontiac Mall in 1962 and was Michigan's first fully enclosed shopping center. The inside of the mall was closed to the public nearly 10 years ago, and 4 years ago, the last anchor store, a Sears, closed.
Did you ever go to Summit Place Mall?
Absolutely not. I am an East Sider through and through, so Eastland, Macomb, all that kind of was my world. Getting over to Waterford on the bus was a hard one.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I used to visit a girlfriend who lived in Waterford when I lived in Grosse Pointe. That was not a fun slog.
No, not at all.
City officials in Royal Oak could okay as much as $877,000 in additional funds for a new parking deck under construction near the corner of 11 Mile and Main Street downtown. The Freep reports the change orders come despite the fact the project originally had a guaranteed maximum price of $15.6 million. The change orders are part of a loophole in the contract that says the city has to pay for them. The city commission was expected to vote on the added costs Monday night. The 581-space parking deck is part of the Rethink Royal Oak development that includes a new office building, new city hall, and 2-acre public park. It's taking shape on the site of a former surface parking lot just east of Main Street near the city's public library, and it's expected to open in June. We'll link to the full Freep story on dailydetroit.com.
The Detroit Pistons have slipped one rank on Forbes' list of most valuable NBA teams, even while gaining in value. Not only moribund on the court, they're low on the totem pole as far as business. The team is now ranked 26th in the league out of 30 teams. The Pistons franchise is now worth $1.27 billion. That's a 15% jump from last year, but the rest of the league continues to gain in value as well. Although Little Caesars Arena looks like a ghost town for many Pistons games, revenue is actually up. That's in part due to shared costs with the Detroit Red Wings. It's also due to pricier seating options and a doubling of corporate sponsorship revenue. That's all according to Forbes. The team brought in $20 million more in stadium revenue than when they were out in Auburn Hills.
Forbes goes on to say that Pistons fans are sick of losing, so the financial gains could be short-lived.
I can say that first part is very true. I'm very sick of losing.
Using team-reported numbers, Forbes says that 75% of seats in Little Caesars Arena have been sold 2/3 of the way through the Pistons season.
And I'll note here visually, it's clear that although those games tickets may be sold, I'll put that in quotes, people aren't actually coming out. After all, the Pistons have only made it the playoffs once in the last 9 years.
Forbes says the average NBA team is now worth $1.9 billion. The most valuable team? That'd be the New York Knicks. They're worth more than $4 billion.
Although Detroit sports teams are popular and sports are a big thing in the Motor City, both the Pistons and the Detroit Lions haven't been able to capitalize that into business value for their clubs. The Detroit Lions rank second to last in the NFL for team worth.
The Detroit Tigers are in the back half of the value list in Major League Baseball, too. The only major team in the top 10 of their league is the Detroit Red Wings. But in general, NHL teams aren't worth as much. Forbes estimates the Red Wings are worth about $775 million.
So I'm just going to say it here, and I know this might be an unpopular opinion, but I really feel like these owners need to step up, man. Like, these sports teams are painful, and having all of these teams be terrible across the board, it's so expensive to go to games now. It's inaccessible for people. I can't even imagine if I had a family and wanted to take my kids to a game. That just isn't even a thing. I mean, where are these tickets getting sold? Are they just getting held up for corporate folks? I mean, where is like the love for the fans here? At least give us a product we can be proud of.
These are not cheap games to go to. It costs a lot of money to go to a lot of these professional sports games, especially the Lions games or the Pistons. You're talking about a major expense for a night out with the family or whatever, and they need to provide some value for that money.
Well, it definitely says something that the most interesting part of Detroit sports nowadays, I think anyway, is Detroit City FC.
Speaking of which, Detroit City FC has unveiled its partial schedule for the upcoming 2019 campaign, which sees the club embark on its first season of professional soccer. City's 8th season of National Premier Soccer League regular season play kicks off May 12th against the Michigan Stars at the Ultimate Soccer Arena in Pontiac. The Rouge make their home debut a week later on May 19th when they host Kalamazoo FC at Keyworth Stadium in Hamtramck. City will host 16 home matches at Keyworth this summer. That includes 7 NPSL regular season matches. The club says it will release the full schedule for the inaugural NPSL Founders Cup season, that's the Pro League, which will feature 5 home matches plus 4 home exhibition matches at a later date. The NPSL regular season will see City take on Great Lakes Conference rivals including AFC Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids FC, and the new expansion side, Toledo Villa. City will also travel to Tennessee for a preseason friendly April 6th at Chattanooga FC in a repeat of last year's friendly. Season tickets go on sale to the public on Valentine's Day, February 14th. Visit DetroitCityFCStore.com.
I personally know of a few couples where their Valentine's gifts will be DCFC gear. The Detroit Symphony Orchestra's live concerts are coming to cable TV. The concerts will be broadcast on Comcast Xfinity Channel 900, making the channel available to more than 1 million households here in Metro Detroit. The deal includes 8 concerts this season, with more to be announced later. The DSO has long made classical concerts available online to watch. The Detroit-based nonprofit says there's been more than 1 million streams of their broadcast since they first started in 2011. We'll have a list of the available concerts so far up on dailydetroit.com.
That holiday of chocolates and hearts and love is almost here, Jared. Can you feel it?
Can you feel the love tonight?
We're talking about Valentine's Day. But where do Metro Detroiters go for Valentine's Day? Well, the data is in courtesy of ride-sharing service Lyft. And so we're here to run them down for you. Let's start with the top bars and restaurants, and we'll count down from 5 to 1.
Yeah, this is an interesting list. Number 5, Pops for Italian, downtown Ferndale. Really good place to go. I like it because it's a nice mix of value and quality, so I'm a fan.
Yeah, and they've got a nice inviting bar and a decent wine list and everything. I mean, I can see that. It's kind of a nice ambiance in there and everything.
Number 4, Gold Cash Gold in Corktown. which is a pretty popular spot. It's featured in a lot of magazines and things like that.
Mm.
3, Gray Ghost, which is swanky to say the least,
Yep.
but quite good.
Yep.
Maru Sushi and Grill is number 2. That's in the heart of downtown Central Business District.
Haven't been there yet.
Yeah, they've made quite an impact lately. And then number 1 is Standby, which is that place in the Belt.
Yeah, you and I had a drink there not so long ago.
Yeah, it was very good, a very quality drink to say the least.
Absolutely.
Now we'll talk about activities or places to go. Number 5 was Imagine Royal Oaks. That's a movie theater, if you didn't know, in downtown Royal Oak.
So people are going to the movies on Valentine's Day. That's interesting. I don't think I've ever spent Valentine's Day at a movie theater.
That wouldn't be my first pick either,
No.
but hey. Number 4 is the Fisher Theater. It seems like that's a good way to go, like a nice show.
For sure. As is number 3, the Fox Theater. And I like number 2, also Detroit Institute of Arts. That's a nice, unconventional, taking a little bit of culture for Valentine's Day. I like it.
Actually have some conversation with your Valentine's date. It's pretty nice.
Take a stroll in the galleries. Yeah.
And then number 1, I'm not sure about this one.
Me neither.
Just because, not to knock it, but I didn't think of this for Valentine's Day. Little Caesars Arena.
Yeah. And we checked this February 14th, Valentine's Day, the Wings are hosting the Ottawa Senators. Isn't that excuse to wear red, I guess? That's the official color of Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah, and there's lots of couples who are into sports and hockey and all of that. So
Yeah,
that's a
I
thing.
guess.
That's a thing. And then finally, let's talk about the 4 top neighborhoods around. And
These are Metro Detroit's most romantic burgs, if you will.
number 4, I think you'd appreciate this one. Ferndale is for lovers.
Holler.
Number 3, Midtown. That's Midtown Detroit.
Yeah, sure. It's walkable. Lots of good restaurants, coffee shops, bars, places to go.
All kinds of great stuff. Number 2, Corktown. Another great place you could make a night of it, bouncing around to a few different restaurants and bars. And then number 1, Royal Oak.
Yeah, Royal Oak. We were talking earlier about, Royal Oak has really, a couple decades ago, Royal Oak was like Metro Detroit's de facto downtown. Back when Detroit was moribund and there was not much going on down there, Royal Oak was where everybody went. And it's still, because of the way that Metro Detroit is sprawled so much, it's frankly closer for a lot of people than
Very
going all the way
centrally
downtown.
located.
Yeah.
Yep. A 696 going right through there, Woodward, all that kind of stuff. And
Especially on a midweek night like Valentine's Day.
And there's lots of folks living in that Royal Oak, Huntington Woods, all that area right there. It's very densely populated
For sure.
compared to the rest of the region.
Good restaurants, good places to eat. You can walk around. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Milo Digital. Milo Digital is a full-service digital marketing agency that engineers quality results through data and innovative strategies. Learn more at milodetroit.com.
The city of Detroit's on a list we probably don't wish we were on. The city is near the bottom of the nation for being a healthy city. That's according to Wallet Hub, an online aggregator of data and information. Detroit is in the bottom 10 cities, ranking 166 out of 174 for poor showings in 4 categories: healthcare, food, fitness, and green spaces. Sven, we don't always do Wallet Hub things because sometimes it just doesn't feel, it feels a little bit like, oh, we're on the bottom, we're on the top. But I think it was interesting to pull this one out because it feels like this is a real thing. Like this is not alone as a data point.
Right. Well, they all say the same thing. Detroit always shows up pretty low on the list of healthiest cities in the country, and so that's no surprise. We're very unhealthy. Michigan's one of the most obese states in the country. Right up there with like Wisconsin and I think on par with like some of the states in the South even. I attribute it in part to, it's sort of an outgrowth of our deep-rooted car culture in a lot of ways. I think we really make it hard to walk around, and people, I think, just tend to look down at walking.
Well, I think about it so here in the University District, if I want to get Chinese food, I walk a few blocks over around the corner and get Chinese food. But if I'm out in the suburbs, even though it's the same distance, in fact, a little less, it is completely crazy to walk because of how crazy the traffic is and everything else.
Right. It's not pleasant.
It's not pleasant at all. The exact same different distance, I'm hopping in the car.
Yeah.
It's just clear as day, like the two different things.
Well, yeah. Even when you can walk, when it's like within the distance, it's probably not always going to be a pleasant walk. I was thinking about that the other night. I was walking up to the bar to meet my brother actually in Ferndale, and it was freezing cold out, but it was really not a bad walk. It was like a 10-15 minute walk, totally manageable. Like I said, it was cold, but I thought, look,
it's winter. We're expecting cold.
And it's not an issue in cities like Minneapolis or Chicago that are even colder than it is here. People walk all the time there because it's so easy. It's just they don't make it easy in a lot of neighborhoods around here. You're fighting, big busy roads and loud cars whooshing past you and exhaust and everything. Or, you're just walking through neighborhoods where there's not, frankly, much of interest to look at. I mean, at least you're on sidewalks and you're not at danger of getting plowed into by a car careening out of control, but there's nothing particularly interesting about it. All right, huge news last week as the longest-serving member of Congress, Dearborn's own John Dingell, passed away at age 92. As we reported last week, he'd been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer, but chose not to treat it. A public visitation is taking place as we record this show Monday at the Ford Community and Performing Arts Center in Dearborn. That goes until 8 p.m. Former Vice President Joe Biden will speak at Dingell's funeral mass in Michigan tomorrow on Tuesday. Also speaking are U.S. Representatives Fred Upton, a Republican from West Michigan, and John Lewis, a Democrat from Georgia. The funeral mass takes place at 11 a.m. Tuesday at the Church of the Divine Child in Dearborn. That's at 1055 North Silvery Lane. Former President Bill Clinton will speak at Dingell's funeral mass on Thursday in Washington, along with others, including former Republican House Speaker John Boehner. Dingell served an incredible 59 years in the U.S. House. He succeeded his father after his death in office. The younger Dingell was known as an environmentalist and a civil rights supporter who also occasionally was at odds with members of his own party as a staunch defender of the U.S. auto industry. Dingell was also a big proponent of improving the healthcare system. He introduced universal healthcare legislation in every Congress until the signing of the Affordable Care Act in 2010. His wife, Debbie Dingell, was elected to his seat in 2015. While congressional districts have shifted over the years, Michigan has had a congressional district represented by a Dingell ever since 1933, which is frankly incredible, Jer.
I can't help but think, and I know it's a little cliche, but I can't help but think this is the end of an era. This is the end. We're pretty much at the end of the representatives and politicians who served in World War II.
Oh, yeah.
Who had that kind of era of, you may be a Democrat, I may be a Republican, whatever, but we're going to figure out something and we're going to do leadership together in one way or another. Not that there wasn't gridlock and things like that, but there were people on the left and the right that respected John in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And he also was an amazingly nice man, beyond being like sharp-witted on Twitter, which everyone knows.
Oh, he was hilarious. He was incredible on Twitter.
Yeah, incredible. The stories I have heard over the years of John and how he mentored people and how he took the time to do little things. That's impressive. And you don't see that as much anymore. And I think we need more leaders that rise up as opposed to leaders that go down. And I know that's maybe silly to say in this hyper-partisan world, but I'd like to see more folks who have a little bit of complication to their positions. Dingell was a lifetime member of the NRA. That adds another layer of viewpoints. Right now, it seems like if you're a Republican or a Democrat, you believe this or you believe that. Mm-hmm. And real people aren't like that. I feel like we have like these avatars in politics right now. I don't know.
Also interesting to see his final kind of parting shots op-ed in the Washington Post. Parting shots is not a good way to describe it. It was actually very collegial, but it was kind of like his words of wisdom for the country about, staying close to its democratic ideals. He didn't name any names. I mean, it's thinly veiled. It's obvious who he's talking about. But anyway, really interesting piece and just a very classy way to go out, I thought.
I agree completely, but I couldn't help reading it think of Eisenhower's military-industrial complex speech or his Iron Cross speech, where Eisenhower had a lot of ideas about how we need to come together and all these other things, and he was just summarily ignored.
Well, yeah, for sure. But Dingell, he started in 1955, I think, in the House.
I think he was a page
post-war years, yeah.
And he was a page. He was there for the FDR speech for World War II. I mean, to think about that kind of history, just amazing.
Well, I mean, yeah, think about his front row seat to that history and the change that he's seen in this country and just in the world. It's just unfathomable,
Well, agree with him or disagree with him, he definitely gave his life to the public service of this country and should be honored for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We hope he rests in peace. And with that, I'm Sven Gustafson. Thanks so much for listening. Remember, you can be part of our show by becoming a Patreon member. Join us at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
And I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.